Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be the flick through for issues 12 and 13 of Warhammer Combat Patrol. These are our Terminators, over 2 sprues, hence why they've done it with 2 issues for this one. So come and join me on the desk and we'll have a look, and then we will get a couple built. Thank you. Hey lovelies, right, let's have a look at issues 12 and 13 of Combat Patrol. We get our Terminator Squad with this. Put the plastic aside. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, 5. It was in the other. And then we get a 25mm base for our teleport Homer. Right, not to be confused with a Simpsons Homer. Right, let's have a look, shall we? Combat Patrol, issue 12. So here's our Terminators. So we get our how to build. Talks about this one being an honoured veteran, the Terminator Sergeant. Most Terminator Sergeants are quite often defined, because most Terminators will have, like standard Terminator troops will have a power fist and a storm bolter, or maybe a power fist and a heavy weapon. Whereas Terminator Sergeants will potentially have a storm bolter and a power weapon. Generally speaking, it's not a hard and fast rule. There are other units out there. You know, you could have a Thunder Hammer and Storm Shield. You could have swords and Storm Shields. You could have 2 Lightning Claws, etc. And then we're into our build. Now these guys are pretty much it. There's no chapter iconography on these, so you will need transfers, or if you're only good at freehanding, I'm not, you'll need to either use transfers or freehand the chapter iconography onto the shoulder pauldrons. And then you get the teleport Homer there. Right, so read red section B, Space Marines 06, Tactical Doctrine. I kind of feel that the Codex Astartes has been thrown out the window with the introduction of Primaris of Marines. I'm also seeing a lot of blurring of lines between, like, what would have been considered fast assault or fast attack, I should say, devastator or tactical Marines. So we get in, obviously we got some ranged weaponry here, bolt rifle, storm bolters, assault bolter, and then we've got assault doctrine. So we've got chain swords, power fists, power swords, plasma pistols, bolt pistols. So these guys are pretty much, the Primaris version is pretty much armed in a very similar way to the older assault troops that we used to be able to buy, with bolt pistols and plasma pistols, etc. Chain swords, power fists. I haven't seen any storm shields on these. Storm shields, or are they? Yeah, combat shield. That was it. Combat shields. So on the old assault troops, you could take a combat shield, which would have like a pistol strapped to the back of the shield, so that you could use it for defence, but also shoot from it. Battle shock tests. Our green section, basics 09. So battle shocks below half strength, taking battle shock tests, battle shock and objective control. Scenario 8, hold or die. So again, we're pitting our marine units that we have already against the Tyranid units. So, but we're deploying along short table edges and playing lengthways across the table on this game. As the battle grows ever more desperate, both the Tyranids and Space Marines find themselves struggling not just to slay the enemy, but to hold the field. Faced with the brutality of close quarters combat, will they hold fast, or will their resolve be shaken? So yeah, Termagants, Von Ryan's Leapers, Winged Prime, Barb Gaunts. So we've got objective markers. We've got 4. And the objective markers are being deployed across corners. So 1, 2, and then 3, 4. You got your Inferno Squad, your Terminator Librarian, and then your Terminator Captain, and then 2 pieces of the carded Tyranid terrain. We then go into the playthrough. So Space Marine's turns, example move and shoot. Tyranid's turn, example move and shoot. Okay, and then we're into turn 2. So for both Tyranids and Space Marines, and then obviously it gives example charge and fight, example move and shoot, and so on. And then obviously your victory outcomes. So that's issue 12. Issue 13, we get our second part of the final part of the Terminator sprue. And then we're into how to paint. So these guys being the Smurf Marines, the poster boys for the Space Marines, are being painted blue. And they're just showing you, because obviously we've collected a few paints now, so they're just showing you a much more in-depth paint scheme than the previous issues. Right, creating a Space Marine. So this talks about, this will talk about how they're selected, what they go through to become a Space Marine, having the various extra organs implanted in them, the susmain membrane and the black carapace, psycho conditioning that takes place, etc. Selecting candidates, superhuman physiology. And then we have Bonds of Honor, part 3. So more fiction. And then we have some details for the Terminator Squad for our grey section. So collect Space Marines 07. You have D3 rolling chart for background table. Then you can give it a unit name and their deeds. And then you've got the data sheet. Now we obviously got the full set of Combat Patrol data sheets. So you should have a carded copy somewhere. But this is obviously just talks you through the data sheet here. Then we have special rules for leaders in our green play section. So this talks about attaching leaders, joining units, when and how, veil of time. Leaders often provide valuable benefits to the unit they have joined. The librarian confers the veil of time ability on his unit. This gives the models in his unit the sustained hits 1 ability. This means that every time you roll a 6 to hit with those weapons, it counts as 2 hits. This applies to both melee and ranged weapons, as well as the attacks used by the librarian himself, including his smite attack. Unstoppable Valor, attacking with a unit leader. and stealth fights first. So we then have Scenario 9, Burden of Command. A large Tyranid force has gathered, but the Space Marines are stretched thin. It falls to the veterans of the 1st Company and their Terminator armoured commanders to break the swarm and secure some vital operational breathing room for their comrades. In this mission, your aim is to defeat a much larger Tyranid force with an elite detachment of Space Marines. So, you have... Okay, we have 2 objective markers, 1 and 2. The Tyranids are deploying along the short table edge. So, all the Tyranids that we've basically got so far. Space Marines in Zone 1 and Space Marines Zone 2 are literally just 2 sections of the map on their short table edge. The 2 centre sections, and then we just have a couple of pieces of the Tyranid carded terrain. Tyranids turn. Tyranids command phase, move phase, shoot, charge. Tyranids and Space Marines fight. So it looks like we are having the Terminator Squad with the Librarian attached, and then we have the Captain on his own. Space Marines turn. Example move, shoot, example charge and fight, and then obviously your victory outcomes there. And then we have another paint issue, boring I know, but in 15 we have the Psychophage arrives. Right, come down. Hello. So Terminators, usually 40mm bases. We get 5 because it's a 5-man squad, plus we get a 25mm base for the teleport Homer. So here is our unit. Now these are all push fit monopose, but they're still pretty good miniatures in their own right. They're, you know, they're still got, some of them have got some really nice dynamicism to them, so they look good. But here's our teleport Homer here. Fairly simple, easy. Instead of having the 4 little cables that hold it up, it's just got 2, just to keep it simple to mould. Obviously all our Terminators have the Crux Terminatus on the shoulder pauldron, which is the right shoulder pauldron, sorry, the left shoulder pauldron I should say. So left shoulder is Crux Terminatus, and then on the right shoulder for Terminators you have the chapter symbol. We do get some little things like there's a pile of spent cases here which you would use to put on the base for the assault cannon, and then some other things like skulls and just bits of this battlefield detritus. But yeah, I mean, these are the things. Your sergeant comes on a large tactical rock, and then a couple of the other minis are just standing on small single tactical rocks. I've got 1 foot on 1 tactical rock. Tactical rubble, tactical rock. But yeah, so they're all armed with storm bolters and power fists, except for the heavy weapon, which is an assault cannon, and then the sergeant has a storm bolter and power sword. It's actually not a bad power sword, it's quite nice. It's this one here. Doesn't look too bad. I can't remember if I swapped it out for a different sword though. Something which might be more Dark Angels. I might have a look in my bits box and see what I've got. See what they say. But yeah, there you go. Come back, and what we'll do is we'll build the heavy weapon and the sergeant on camera. Right, I'll see you in a sec. Right then, lovelies. Let's get... shall we build our heavy weapon Terminator first? Now, I am going to do a small change, well, big change actually, to this, but let's get the main body built first, and then we can have a look at what I'm going to do. So, put his leg in his butt. Then his main torso will go on. Then his shin on his left leg, and then the one on the right. Like thus, and then I'm going to glue to the base, and he is seated in his on his base. Right, so we have a assault cannon which is included as part of the kit. Now I already have this kit because I purchased Leviathan, and as such I don't particularly want a repeat. Now I got the Deathwing Army box set. Why is this being awkward? So I have some heavy weapons left over from that in the form of heavy flamer, and the one that I'm going to use, which that's better, which is the plasma cannon. Now this guy, the heavy weapon will go on like so. But I'm not going to glue that on. I am going to glue on his power fist though. So that's just going to go on like that, and then attach like so. I might just angle that back slightly. And then we have this little pile of shell casings, which isn't necessarily appropriate now for this particular mini, but that would just slot into the other peg just there. So I'm not actually going to include that. Now, the included head would go in, okay, but we're not using that either. So here is our plasma cannon, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to nip this off so that I can get the plasma cannon in position. Now this is slightly domed, so I'm just going to flatten that out a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is put the plastic weld on. And add the plasma cannon in that orientation, like so. Just want to make sure that this absolutely aligns up the way I want it to. So that's going to align like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add plastic weld into this. And then I'm going to marry up that there like so. And the last thing we're going to do is I'm swapping the head out because this one's got an augmetic eye. So I'm swapping, that'll be the sink. I'm swapping that out. So that we've got obviously a more appropriate head, and that's the heavy weapon which came with the set. Now this is the Leviathan one, okay, which is how it would have looked, and this is the upgrade, as it were. Okay, so that was that. There's our heavy weapon specialist. Now let's get on and do this. Now this comes with a choice of two heads. You get helmeted and unhelmeted. I'm going with helmeted for this one. And first thing we're going to do is just the homing beacon. Teleport Homer, which is really easy to just put on. And there you go, that's that. It's easy, piece of cake. So we have our sergeant here. Now I am going to do a couple of little upgrades to this, just to make him a little bit more Dark Angels. So let's join the torso together. I do apologise if you can hear shouting outside. And then the legs, like that. And then this guy is going to go on to his base. Let's just really force that down into position like that. Now we have our power weapon. Now I did see if I could find something which was better, but I couldn't in my bits box, so we're going to go with this. Now on the other one his sword is down a little bit, so I'm actually going to just rotate his arm slightly so that it's up more, just so there's a slight difference in pose. The arm with the storm bolter just goes together as usual, like the many of the other Terminator kits. So you get the storm bolter in halves, and then that's going to go onto there. But before we do that, there is this little Terminator honours which came on one of the Dark Angels upgrade sprues. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add that just there. As like a 3D badge. So a little Terminator badge there. Then we have this little trinket case, reliquary case, that I'm going to just pop on here onto his hip armor plates, like so. And then, where's it gone? We have another badge here with a purity seal, and that is going to go on this shoulder here. Like so. Now I'm going to add in the bolter arm. And then drop the head in, which is on this very long pin. So, and there you go. There's your Terminator Sergeant. So the other Terminator Sergeant, I went with unhelmeted. I've given this one a little purity seal with the Terminator Honor badge, but I've also given him one of the Dark Angels daggers as well, and a little sensor on his back, just there. The other Terminator in the set, and I have done a couple of little things. So we had this, you get one Terminator which would be walking forward in this manner, so I've changed it and moved his arm up so that he's firing whilst walking forward. I've also given him from my bits box, I've swapped out his arm so that he has a chain fist. Okay, and then this one is just more or less made as is, but I've pushed his arm back a little bit more, giving him a little reliquary box here on his hip armor. And then obviously this guy, when I originally built him, he got a little Dark Angels chapter icon to hang off on that side. But there you go, that is the Terminator Squad. I've given them all, except for one, they've all had some sort of just minor upgrade in some way to the original. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care, bye bye.